Hello everyone, it's good to see so many familiar faces here, but I still need to introduce myself. So my name is Kacper and I'm Unity developer at 10 Square Games. I'm connected with gaming industry for almost 9 years now. I spent 2 years creating games on PC, but then I switched to mobile, and it is my main target now. So I'm working on I was working on hyper-casual games, mid-core games, and now I'm working on simulation games in 10 Square Games. So let's talk about first date and relationships. What? Why? It is serious conference and you are going to talk about relationships? Yes. Let me explain it a bit. I found this statement on the internet some time ago, and at first it was very funny, and I was, what? Well, no, okay. But after a while, I was thinking about it, and I found some truth in it. As a game developers, we need to create special relationship between user and our game. If we gain the player trust and introduce some happiness into his life, he will be more willing to spend time with us, and perhaps in the future, he will also be more willing to leave money in our game. It reminds me about my relationship. I'm happily married for almost 7 years now, and this is how I would describe my experience. It started with spending time together, bringing joy, and now I have mortgage to pay and children to feed. But I still enjoy it, and it is because I built a good relationship. It is exactly what we expect from the user. They need to pay our loans, yeah. But going back to the topic, there is 2 types of tutorial. First-time user experience, and it happens when user open the game for the first time. It is our one and only chance to attract player. At the second, and the second one is regular tutorial, which led us through the later parts of the game, and it can happen on the later stages of game. Today I will be talking about our first experience in the game. Let's think about a player who opens the game for the first time. Isn't it similar to what happened on the first date? We need to show to the user that our game is worth to get a chance. Let's say our player is Hot 10 and our game is only free among other games on the Google Store. So we need to show that we are good enough to go for the second date. We got only a few minutes to attract player and interest him with our game. Later on, he will be more pleasant to pay in our game. But before we start dating, we need to define our dating requirements. Without it, it will be hard to understand the needs of our user. I will propose only few key factors which can define our user, but depends on your product and your game. You can add more and more factors to this. We need to define our target audience. Tutorial can be different for the hyper-casual games and mid-hardcore games. The complexity and length of the tutorial will differ because target audience is different. So we need to start from defining which player type we want to reach. If it is suitable for our game genre, we want to create. Also, gaming experience can be different for people with different age or gender. Older people has different hobbies and spend their free time differently than teenagers. They have more time after work to play, but they also need more explanation because they are not familiar with all mechanics in mobile games. From all of these factors, the most important, in my opinion, is time. Time which user can spend on our game on the first session. The most of mobile games are created to play everywhere, and in any time. So we need to attract player in short amount of time. In current world, the attention span is so short that it's very hard to meet all requirements for perfect tutorial, but I will try to show my experience with mobile games and how we should prepare ourselves for the first meet with the user. And because there is no much time to lose, we need to start directly from the gameplay. Imagine the situation when user opens the game and need to click few times to see what the gameplay look like. He can be already bored when he reached the best what you have in the game. Faster user know what is the core of your game, he can admire it or rage quit. Faster, in both situations we can learn a valuable lesson, but of course we need to have analytical data for that. If user will not survive the first experience in the game, we need to think about the reason. Maybe our game is not visually attractive for him, or based on our assets on asset store, he expects something different, but if user survives, we need to treat him gently. These are two examples of games from Supercell and 10 Square Games when users start directly from the gameplay part. It took only few seconds with loading to see what the game offered to us. Of course, there are some parts of the loading screen which we cannot skip, like GDPR or asking for permissions to notifications, which are required for mobile platforms. But no matter what, we should try to limit first clicks to minimum. What is more, in some games, we need to download additional content during the first loading. It is caused by limitation of the stores and size of APKs. So when the user enters the game, we need to spend some time on loading screen when we will download all the additional content. Maybe it is a good idea to limit this required data to minimum and move all additional downloading to the later part of the game. But showing gameplay from the beginning, it is not something taken for granted in mobile games. There are a few examples of successful games which do not apply this rule. For example, recently released Monopoly Go game, when you need to spend 15 seconds on watching the introduction video, but you will probably notice that these games has different target audience, so most probably this video on start will not affect the results of the game because target audience will enjoy this entry video and will be amazed with the art style. But still, it took over 6 clicks and almost 1 minute to reach the gameplay part of the game. It is too much for most of the users. We need to consider if our game is good enough to spend this amount of time during the first session with our user. If user finally reach the main part of the game, it is important to not overwhelm him with informations. For example, we don't want to show him the wall of text during the first gameplay. No one has time to read the tips, of course. It depends on what game you are creating, but when I install the Battle Royale game, I want to kill enemies, not to read the very long text about abilities of my hero. If the game needs to explain the core mechanics with the wall of text, it means that it is too hard to understand. And maybe you should consider to change it a bit. The entry level of your game should be placed really low to reach bigger amount of organic users with short attention span. What is more, when we use the text for the first-time user experience, this text needs to be localized good enough to explain the rules for the user across the world. English language is the most popular and big amount of user will understand what you want to set, but Our game should be self-explanatory and easy to understand in every language. Here is the good example from Brawl Stars game, when during the first battle, on the tutorial arena we have few instructions, but every instructions is highly connected with the color coding and animation inside the game. So without reading and understanding what is written, we are able to go through the tutorial. Again, it is not something which will block us from achieving the success on mobile. Monopoly Go, again, after we pass through the long introduction, game welcomes us with the monologue of main character and try to explain what we are going to do. It's still the part before user even start to interact with the game. But all these tutorial examples doesn't need to touch only gameplay mechanics. Most free-to-play games includes meta features which needs to be also explained to the user. What players have to do to be better in your game and to beat other players. Some of the game developers are so kind that they led us by a hand for the few minutes of the game. They are so kind that they even fade the rest of the screen, highlight button on the screen, and animate hand where you have to click to perform an action in the game. Sometimes they even add the wall of text to describe what this button do, and if it will be possible, it will also record the voiceover to read that text for you. Creating such experience push the user to click on the screen without thinking and block the feeling that he is controlling the game. Second example of killing the illusion of controlling the game is giving the user something only to take it away from him in the next step of tutorial. Why? Why user needs to spend his hard currency on opening chest during tutorial? Maybe he wants to save that money for later purchase. If you give something to the user, give it for free, because content on the first step are worthless. Of course, user doesn't know that. So if we give it to the player, let's give it for free. Let's take a look on Marvel Snap game tutorial for swapping the card in the deck. After this tutorial, I didn't know what happened. Why I should exchange exactly this card? Why I cannot change other cards? What is hidden under the blur? User should get used to the UI and what is happening underneath. With such experience, next time when user will try to exchange card in the deck, he wouldn't know where to click, because most of the part of UI and game are hidden for him during tutorial. The good example of not blocking user from exploring the game is, for example, Fishing Clash, our title in 10 Square Games, or Clash Royale, where user can, after first activity, has almost full access to all features. He can explore any view in the game and check what the game offers him. What is also interesting, when user go to the upgrade screen in Clash Royale game, the view is scrolling through the all content, all characters available in the game. So user know what he can unlock in the future in the game. This example leads us directly to creation of the illusion that user control the game. For example, in Battle Royale game, again, normal player who wants to play the game will be trying to do his best and kill everyone on the arena, pick up better weapons, and win the first battle. For example, in Brawl Stars game, in Brawl Stars, user has no option to lose. Probably most of the user will not notice that, because when you enter at the first arena, you want to kill everyone on the first battle. But if I try to be passive during the first gameplay, and guess what? I won this round. So in this case, user see that, okay, I'm immortal, but if he do not play like me, he will get the boost of dopamine because he won the first game and he's good at it. The similar experience is in the Clash Royale. But in this case, the player will notice that he's not controlling the game. The game blocks us to play as we want. As you can see, I want to drop different units on the map, but it doesn't allow me to do that. And even if we place the unit in different place, he will try to correct us. Of course, if we follow the rules, we will not have that feeling, but who play the Stanley Parable game know that going out of the script can be fun sometimes. Giving user the opportunity to explore the game can be dangerous because we can show something that user is not ready yet. User don't have enough level or equipment to do it. Some games decide to lock parts of the game under some level requirements. But isn't it contrary to exploring the game? Of course, user will be more convinced to progress more and more in the game, but if we lock everything under the level requirements and do not show user what is underneath, user can be disappointed when he will reach this level and finally unlock this part of the game. So in my opinion, requirements shouldn't be explicitly shown to the user. We can manipulate the content of our game in such a way that user will get required skill and knowledge before he will feel the need to use that feature. These two examples show that after first activity in the game, we get full access, and even if something is locked, we get full explanatory of what is going on in the game. But for example, in Clash of Clans, for whole tutorial, for whole first-time user experience, we see only small part of the UI. And after we finish the obligatory part of the tutorial, the game show us every other parts of UI, which can have negative impact for the user because now he see a lot of new buttons and he doesn't know what to do in the game. Of course, we still have these arrows and call to actions to go through the game, but the amount of information around the player is more than during the tutorial. And now we are going back to our initial reference to date. I think it completely makes sense now because all of these rules can be easily applied to the first date in real life. First one, don't let her wait for you. So don't be late for your date. Start directly from the gameplay. Second one, do not talk much about yourself, but allow your date to know you. Third, give her a feeling that she controlled the date, maybe give her something for free, with hope she will pay you back in the future with more. And at the end, show her what you got, but save your best jokes for the next date. But can we be prepared for the date? It depends on the stage of development of your game. Definitely, when you want to test your game on the market, you don't want to spend much time on creating dedicated solution for tutorial. But you need to remember that tutorial will appear in sometimes. Discuss it with your designers and maybe mock up your future tutorial. If you forgot about it, it will end up with some ugly code structure full of if statements, which allows code to run only once when user open the game. When your game is released and you got promising results, but you need more users or boost your day one retention, short-term retention, you should spend some time on creating dedicated solution for that. This system should be extendable and allows you to shrink or extend your tutorial paths. You can also create various tests before you even release the game. We can check out tutorial on real users and iterate on our solution. I recommend Playtest Cloud, where real user can record their first time user experience sessions, also with some commentary and suggestions. After a few sessions with Playtest Cloud, you are able to get some assumptions and iterate on your solution in the game. Of course, when you try to test, you need to have some users to measure the results, but also you need to have some analytical data for that. So please remember when you prepare that solution for first-time user experience, add also possibility to measure the progress in tutorial. But do we need tutorial at all? What if we invest a lot of resources and a lot of time on creating a flexible system, and after a few weeks on production, a game will be not profitable at all? You spend a lot of time and money, and it will be not usable in the game. So it depends on your project and the stage of development you currently now in your game. Projects in early development should be self-explanatory and needs only bare minimum of instructions for the user. If you go further and add more feature to the game, you need to also support this as a tutorial path. So the decision is on you. How much you want to invest and how you want to explain everything to the user. I didn't come here today to show you ready-made solution that can be applied to any game. I just want to encourage you to take a broader look at the player already at the game design stage to make your life easier on the later stage of development. In 10 Square Games, we got a few tests with tutorial. And one interesting test is to switch off tutorial completely. And after a few weeks on the production, we got results that our game is not affected when the users do not have tutorial in the game. So the game is basically self-explanatory. At the end, I want to show what AI thinks about tutorial in mobile games. So first rule, keep it simple. Avoid overwhelming the player with too much information. The second one, provide clear instructions. Sometimes games send mixed signals to the user and user basically don't know what to do in the game. You use visuals, tooltips, call to actions, arrows, but do not show the tips with the wall of text. Make tutorial optional, because some of the players want to skip this part of the game because, as the title of the presentation, user knows best. So probably it will be good to have opportunity to skip the tutorial part. Reward the player. Give him something to enjoy and to reward him after every stage of your first-time user experience. And last one, reduce amount of input required to navigate through the tutorial. We got a lot of examples that user needs to click through various views to reach the final gameplay. So avoid this situation and try to show user your gameplay as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this presentation about tutorial will help you not only to make great games, but also create good relationships in your life. Thank you very much.
In your experience, thank you for the talk. In your experience, what is the current attention span and time of the session for professional experience in maybe not hardcore but mid-core or hardcore mobile games?
I think it depends on the player, not only on the game genre, but also on the player. Because in our games, most of the users are male over 30 years old. So they got a lot of time to spend on fishing or hunting. For example, younger users do not have much attention span to go through the tutorial. So it depends not only on the game genre, but also on the target audience you want to reach. So if the players have time to play, it will be for him to better to lead by a hand, not to create short first-time user experience. But I see the trend. Even through the reels on Facebook or Instagram stories or TikTok, that the attention span is really short. So please pay attention that users do not have time to go through long tutorial steps. And
if you have to guesstimate the number, what would it be? Like 5 seconds, 10 seconds for the attention span of the first interaction, or for the first session, would it be like, if you are after 30 seconds and you're not interested, it's gone?
Based on my experience, I think the 30 seconds to 2 minutes, it is good to show to the user all we got in the game. But it depends on complexity of your game. Maybe, as I said on this presentation, you want to hide something for the later and show the rest of the tutorial on the later part of the game. But you need to show what you got the best in your game through the first session, and this is really short time.
Any additional questions? Oh.
Hi. You've mentioned that you have to adjust the amount of information you give to the experience that your assumed target audience already has. Is there some way to properly judge it? How much can you assume that they already know about gaming, and how much you have to actually show them?
It is exactly what the profiling of our user does. So if you start create your game, you need to define your target audience. So you basically know what they know about games, if they play the similar games or not. Probably women over 40 doesn't know about most of the features on mobile. So then you need to, if you target that audience, you need to adjust your tutorial and add more information. But still remember that if you want to reach users across the world, you need to localize it properly, because without it, a user do not understand what you want to pass.
Okay. And if we don't have any more questions, and Kacper, do you want to add something?
Here's my LinkedIn profile, so you can scan it and we can get in touch.
Great. So once again, applause for Kacper. Thank you very much.